Hey, we're Chad within the zone. I'm here with Denny McLain. How you doing, Denny?
I'm doing fine, sir.
Good. 3-time All-Star, two Cy Youngs, World Series champion, '68. Tell us a little bit about your history in baseball, and obviously I wasn't alive back then, so tell us.
I'm not sure I was either. But, listen, it was a great time to be in the game. It was a great time to be around the people that I got to play with. I got to play with the K-Lines and the Cashes, the Freehands and the McCulloughs and the Wirtz and the Willie Hortons and the Gates Brown. I mean, how can you ask for anything more? Mickey Stanley, who lives here, had lived here, born and raised here. Jimmy Northup. I mean, listen, we had a baseball team that was a solid all-star team. And we could have played any team in the world at that point in time and probably beat them. So it was a great run, great time, great fans. Great support they always gave our ball club. Even today, I mean, they still go out there 30,000 at a time. It's just marvelous. I mean, it's the Tigers really are, when I say a homer team, they really are.
When you look at the Tigers today from this age to your era, what is the difference?
Well, I don't know if there's such a big difference other than with the talent. I think the talent today, because they don't let these kids stay in the minor leagues long enough to develop. Fundamentally, they don't play the game as well. They miss cutoff men. They don't hit and run. They don't run and hit. Bunting is God. If you ask a guy to bunt right now, he's peeved. I mean, he doesn't want to. He wants to hit a home run. These guys don't understand. Winning should take precedent over anything else. And some of these kids don't understand that. They think they got to go up there and hit a home run because they want to make more money. If you're on a winning ball club, you will make more money than you've ever thought about making. To try to get all of the money in the world by your own personal achievements is fine, but you'll make a lot more if you get those personal achievements coupled with a World Series winner or being in a World Series, because that's where the owners make all their money. The bottom line is you'll be a well-rewarded guy if you do it that way.
Pitching staff for the Tigers or any other team, do you think they're overworked?
Overworked?
Yeah, playing too many games.
A major league pitcher today is the best paid person in the world. He's making 10 times, 1,000 times more money than we ever made, and he's working less. I mean, a guy throws 200 innings in a year now. God, they talk to him like he's Cy Young. I mean, we had 200 innings at the All-Star break. There's a lot of reasons for that too, but the bottom line is these kids are not fundamentally developed to pitch 9 innings anymore. They're just not. They tell a kid, give me those 100 pitches, go out there and give me 100 pitches. Well, once you plant that in a young man's head, that all I got to do is go out there and hold him with 100 pitches and I'm out of there, doesn't that take a lot of the psyche out of the game? Isn't that kind of what you've defeated really what you want to do? You want to go out there, you want to pitch 8 or 9 innings, you want to pitch a complete ball game. And because of this 100 pitch count thing, it makes no sense. I mean, if it was me, I would have my pitchers pitch every 4th day, and I'd let them pitch every 4th day until he wasn't able to pitch every 4th day anymore. I'd get twice as much out of them. I would get more wins out of them because they're pitching more, and you learn your craft if you do things. Listen, you didn't get good in radio and TV until you did it every day. That's the only way you get better. Pitching is no different. A guy who's a basketball player, he keeps shooting free throws until he starts making 80-90% of them. Football quarterbacks, completions. Pitchers, they throw less and they're supposed to get better. It's impossible to get better unless you do a lot more of it. We used to throw every day. Every day. Now, we didn't get loose every day, but we would throw, 5, 6, 7 minutes every day between starts if you were a starter every 4th day. And the relief pitchers would throw almost every day, a couple of pitches. And a lot of relief pitchers, if you count what they're doing in the bullpen plus the appearances they make in the season, well, they're making 90 appearances a year. You just don't see 30 of them. So it's amazing to me that they actually make so much more money for so less work. Although, if you got a good pitching staff, your ball club's going to make a lot more money and win a lot more games.
Now, a lot of these pitchers now are getting a lot more injuries. Do you think that has to do with a lot of them now starting at such a young age and pitching year-round and playing year-round?
I don't think that's it at all. I think they're not pitching enough. That's all. I just think, seriously, they're not pitching enough. And when you take an 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kid from late high school or college, and you take him, in college, you've got 9 or 10 guys in the lineup, but there's probably only 3 hitters. In the major leagues, you got probably 9 hitters. Big difference, because your intensity is so much more dramatic during a major league game than it is in a double A, triple A game or a college game. It's much more dramatic. So you got to bear down all the time. In college, you can coast. You know, you got the 7th, 8th, and 9th hitters, and they really are the 7th, 8th, and 9th hitters, like the way they used to be, as they say. No, I think that's the problem. They're not throwing enough. They're not working on their trade. They really aren't working on their trade enough. And I mean, I know guys that when I played would go out between starts, and at every 4th day start, they'd throw for 30 minutes a second or third day between starts. I mean, but they worked on something. They worked either on their slider, they worked on their changeup. They just don't go out. These kids at times look like they just go out to throw. I've always told every kid I've ever worked with, pitcher-wise, I've said one thing. Every time you pick up the ball, you have an idea in mind as to what you want that ball to do. Every pitch. Once you get loose after 15, 20 pitches, if you want to throw a little slider, you start spinning the ball. You want to throw a little curveball, start spinning the ball. You want to throw this or that, start doing that all the time. You'll never get better unless you can feel the ball like it's part of your hand. And that's where these guys aren't going anymore. They're even in the bullpen, oh boy, I can throw 50 pitches today. Oh boy. 50 pitches and 25 will be to warm up. So what do you accomplish? Now you only got 20, 25 pitches to really pitch and be intense. It doesn't work that way. I mean, that's the reason why we don't get complete games. That's the reason we don't have as much talent as I think the game should have. And then on the other hand, you got so many teams, it's tough to have 32 teams of major league pitchers. It really is tough to find those guys.
Now, the last couple of years, the Tigers have struggled in their pitching. What do they need to do to improve that?
Well, number one, I think you need a better scouting organization. I don't know how much we're not getting much. I mean, you saw last year the second half. I mean, our pitching staff was brutal. Where they're going to get this, they're going to have to go out. You develop your organization from inside. You go out and sign guys out of college. You sign guys maybe their last year in high school, whatever. I'm dead set against that. But if a guy's got that kind of ability and that kind of money coming at him, he's got to say yes. But the bottom line is they must develop within the organization. Find them, sign them, develop them, and put them in the big leagues. That's what they have to do. The Tigers have totally gotten away from that. Totally gotten away from that. So, I mean, we go out and we sign somebody from another organization. Why? Because the other clubs do it. Kansas City didn't do it. The White Sox at times didn't do it. The Cubs have never done it. Of course, they're brutal. What a story that is. But some of these other clubs have developed from inside. And unless you do that development, and then you can add a player. Then you can add a Cabrera. But if you develop inside and you've got 5 or 6 guys that you consider your team, and you add a Cabrera, you add a Cespedes, you've got something going for yourself. But you just can't pick 8 guys every year, 7 guys every year. And we signed a bunch of guys this year. And the toughest part when you do that is they still have to mesh. They still have to get along with each other. Personalities being what they are, nobody gets along with everybody. So, and sometimes, like the White Sox last year, it took them a year to sort out all of their internal problems. They had a bunch of internal problems in the White Sox last year. And that's one of the reasons they did nothing. This year, according to what I've heard, and I'm born and raised in Chicago, what I've heard is that they've got rid of the bad guys, and the guys who were grumbling are no longer grumbling. If that's the case, look out. I think they got the best club in the league.
It seems like now in baseball, it's all about the power. It's all about, let's knock the ball out of the park. It's not about pitching really much anymore. And the problem is, with the Tigers, they're struggling on their closers.
Well, that's been going on a long time. And as far as the home runs go, nobody hits 400. Nobody hardly hits 300. The game is taught in such a way, if you're not a pitcher, that the bottom line is you got to hit home runs to make money. And you don't. All you got to do is stay in the big leagues. Because the money's automatic. I mean, I think the average 3rd or 4th year player today makes about $3.5–4 million. It's a lot of money. And that's for a guy hitting 230, 240. Think about that. And not playing every day. So, the game has changed. Forever it's changed. And unless they make some changes to protect the players, I'm talking about health-wise, the game will continue to be. But still the greatest game in the world. It's going to continue to be. We accept some of these rules that baseball is trying to change and some of these new things they're trying to put in. I don't agree with every one of them, but it is what it is. And there's so many things now. I mean, I hate the I just hate this replay stuff. I think you're now taking the umpire completely out of the game. The umpire was the 10th person on the field. He was the 10th player for both teams. And the mistakes were a part of the game. The arguments, the Billy Martin moments were some of the greatest stuff we've ever seen. When is the last time we had a Billy Martin moment? That entertainment value is gone. And what baseball's lost sight of, I think, is, yeah, it's a great game. But what they lost sight of, all of that stuff around the game is entertainment, purely entertainment. Why do we watch these goofy Republicans on TV right now? The entertainment value. We don't watch them because they're giving us some great information about what programs they can enact, right? I mean, none of them have told us about a program yet. But Trump gets them all going, calls everybody a liar and a scumbag and everything else. Great entertainment. We want to watch more and more of it.
That's what people want.
People want entertainment. People want Billy Martin jumping in the umpire's face. They want Billy Martin kicking dust. They want Sparky screaming in somebody's face. They want Sparky's gum to go flying out of his mouth and hitting the umpire in the head.
And you don't see that in the coaches anymore.
You can't, because
they're all quiet.
They're all quiet because the umpires rule. No matter what happens, the appeal is on television in New York. The umpires have no control of it anymore. None. Except for balls and strikes, and I suspect one day that's going bye-bye. I mean, you know, there's such great systems in tennis right now that they can tell when that ball is this close or that much on the line. That day may be coming. God forbid that day is coming.
You're talking about rules. As you as a pitcher, what do you think about this rule that as the batter stepping out of the box?
Well, you know, it has to be appropriate for, you know, I don't care how many times he stepped out of the box. The umpire was sooner or later going to tell him, get in the box, either swing, hit, or take, or sit down. That authority has to be maintained by the umpires. They're the ones that have to control that batter's box. Unless they step forward and tell this guy, listen, get in the box, you know, you're going to continue to have some of these issues. But I think in the long list of things people want to talk about, I think that's the least of it. The guy stepping out of the box, so what? You know, he's either scared or his cup is in the wrong place, or, you know, something bad.
They're trying to speed up the game, which I don't understand that. They're saying maybe 2 minutes a game, that's it.
There's no way they're trying to speed up the game. If they were speeding up the game, they would have that clock from the time it hits the catcher's glove till it gets back to the pitcher, and the next pitch would be tossed. Let me say this to you about pitchers. We don't think that quickly. We are not the smartest dogs at the rodeo. And the situation from pitch to pitch changes. I know how I want to pitch Tony Oliva, all right? But you know what? My whole concentration and my whole program to pitch against Tony Oliva changes if there's 2 men on base. If there's nobody on base, I have a different program. So it all has to do with conditions at that moment. So you can't do everything the same way every time. And baseball wants that to be done. They want to put everything in a window. Baseball is not a game that can stay in the window.
Now, the baseball just came out and picked the Tigers to be 4th at the end of the year. What do you think about that?
I think it's fair. I mean, if they get a run, they get a good run, they stay healthy, they could be 3rd, maybe 2nd. But you know, there's 2 clubs ahead of them that are pretty good if they stay healthy, and that's Kansas City and Chicago. You know, everybody talks about Cleveland. Cleveland can't beat themselves in the dark in the men's room, for God's sakes. They never have been. They just don't know how to. They don't play the game fundamentally well, which is much like us. And think about this: if we didn't have Cabrera on our ball club, where would we be?
Yeah.
Think about that, because he makes everybody in front of him a much better hitter. Even the guys behind him are better hitters, and he's a much better hitter if he's got a good hitter behind him also. I mean, that's just the American way in baseball. If you take a real good hitter like a Cabrera in this game today, and you put a mediocre hitter in front of him, a guy that's hit 260, 70 in his career, he'll be a 300 hitter if he hits in front of Cabrera, because he's going to get one strike after another, because nobody wants to pitch a Cabrera with men on base.
Now, if the Tigers come out to a slow start this year, do you think they're going to clean house?
I don't know about cleaning house. I think they did enough cleaning this winter to see what happens. I think they're going to see what happens for a year to see if it develops well. And by the end of the year, if they're going in a positive direction, I don't think they'll do anything like that. I think the guy that's got to worry is the manager. I think he hasn't shown very many, and he's a nice guy, tremendous guy, but he hasn't shown very many people how to manage a pitching staff. And that's really shocking, because most catchers are really super with pitching staffs. So I don't quite get it why he doesn't have a connection. And it seems to me, and I've heard this from players, he's kind of standoffish from the pitching staff for some reason. If that's the case, he needs to improve that relationship, if that's the case. I don't always believe everything I hear coming out of the locker rooms or from writers in our city. But the bottom line is, if that is the case, he needs to improve that quick. Now, there was a great show of support for him when the players apparently walked into the general manager's office and said, "Don't fire him. We're asking you not to fire him." Well, you know, he'd been fired, they rehired, and he got a raise. I mean, geez, wouldn't you like to have that job?
If you were a coach for the Tigers, what would you do?
After I had fired him, I wouldn't have brought him back. I mean, I think it's an embarrassment both ways. Number one, you get fired because you haven't done a good job. Now you get rehired because the players like you. So my question is, who's running the asylum?
Right. Last question for you, Denny. You were talking about a safety, but safety now they have for the fans.
Yeah.
What do you believe in that? What do you think about the protective netting going down first and third baseline?
You know, you run your own risk if you want to sit down the baselines. You want to sit down the foul lines. I'm sorry, that's the nature of the game. We are out in the grass. We're out in the sunshine. And if you can't handle a line drive coming at you, not very many people can, you need to find another seat.
And they need to pay attention.
Really pay attention. Bring a glove. There's nothing wrong with bringing a glove to the ballpark. Even if you don't catch it, you might be able to knock it down before it knocks about 4 or 5 teeth out. As you know, baseball wins every one of those lawsuits, so don't think you're going to get to court because you get hit in your coconut. But fans just got to pay attention when they're there. And especially, you know, you don't have to pay attention all the time, but every time the ball is tossed, you better pay attention because something bad can happen to you if you're not paying attention. It's just like the player on the field. He doesn't have to pay much attention until the ball is pitched. And, the idea of the netting, I guess you could roll it out a little bit more on each side from home plate, maybe 10, 20 feet. But I don't want to take any more away from the game. You got replay for everything. I mean, sooner or later they're going to have replay for pitchers, for players going to the bathroom. Well, did he go to the bathroom or not? Let's run the tape now, make sure he did or didn't. Maybe he didn't wash his hands. All of that stuff. I mean, the replay thing has gotten out of control.
Right. What advice can you give these younger kids growing up, wanting to sit there and become a baseball player? What advice can you give them?
Well, the number one thing is to stay healthy. Number two is to go to school. Go to school. Get as much school as you can. And always have a backup plan. If you're not going to be a big league ball player, you're not going to get an opportunity, have a better plan than what you had in the beginning. Education is what we're all about today. Today you need more college than ever before. I mean, high school is fine, but it doesn't get it anymore the way it once did. Our society has changed dramatically in that area too. But if a kid wants to play baseball, folks, there are 1 million camps out there. Call one. Find out if your kid's good. Find out if he can play the game. But go to one of these camps and one of these guys with the hitting buildings and what have you, with the cages and what have you. Find out if your son can play the game. Find out if he can hit. Find out if he can throw the ball hard. And you can't do it in one visit. You got to do it over a period of time, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. But if you really want to see you can tell if a young man's got athleticism. You can tell right away. I know every time I walk into one of these places, I can tell you the 4 or 5 kids out of 100 that have got pretty good athleticism. Those are the ones I want to see in 4 years. And most of those don't even come back the next year because whatever, they either fell in love or they moved or something happened in the family setup. So you hope that the good ones can last, but life is funny. We get dealt a different hand every day.
Denny, it's a privilege.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you.